And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast. We're back. We're back again. Again, it's been a kind of a slow news cycle, but guess what? A lot of big news just dropped. A lot of big news just dropped. Kentucky got a certain player to commit. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we do that, Connor, how you doing today?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right.
I
I'm
feel like you're
getting
doing all right today. In a
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah.
mood.
Yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood. I've been trying to, get back into school and things. It's been weird. We're at IU now, football season's kicking in. Uh, uh we don't have to talk about it, but Connor, I know this isn't a football podcast, but actually, yes, talk a little bit about what happened on Saturday because you've become one of the biggest IU football fans silently that I know.
Silently. I thought I made it
Silently,
pretty
like
well known.
like you don't really like our old guest Freddie, our old guest Martha. They tweet about it,
Yeah, that's true.
every day. But like you've kind of you run the college basketball podcast with me, so it's kind of been like that has been the sport that you've focused on. So before we get into the ad, let's just hear a little bit about what happened to Indiana on Saturday.
They got humiliated. It was not good. The high hopes are not gone, but they are very, very close to being completely gone. It
Yeah,
was not good.
I wanted to ask you about that because before the season started, everybody was kind of, from what I heard, I'm friends with a lot of Indiana fans. From what I heard, it was 9 wins. The 9-win Indiana was
Still
the motto
possible.
for a while. Still possible for sure, but the hopes were high. Some people were even going as far as to say CFP. I don't know if you were ever on that train. I
No,
hope not.
no,
Okay, you were never on that train. Good. It's good to
no.
hear. But in all reality, this kind of puts you down a peg. And I think I'll give you say something nice about Indiana. I like to try to do that once a podcast, say something nice about Indiana.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, this is Indiana should never, ever, ever, ever go into a season with that high expectations. They should always be the dog. And that's when they thrive, when they're the dog. You see, like most years they go into Ohio State, they're 20-point underdogs, and then they give them a game and lose by 3. Like that is something that has happened a lot in the past, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to just completely lose your expectations for Indiana. I'm not trying to damper your mood for the rest of this intro, but that's all. I'm just saying that's a step in the
I
right direction
could not
because
disagree more with what you just said.
really, tell me why. We'll just get into a debate real quick.
The program is changing. You can't have those expectations going in. That's if you have 7 wins 2 seasons in a row, the goal should be to improve upon that.
Yeah, for
And
sure. That's the
part
goal.
of that
That's the goal.
is winning at Iowa, is
Yeah,
winning big home games. And I'm not mad they lost. I'm mad that they just didn't compete.
right, right.
Like
I'm
I
not.
didn't know.
I'm
That
never
was the only
saying
thing.
it's a good thing to lose. I'm
You
just
just said that
saying,
they should be the dog, the
but
underdog.
that is when
No,
they have. That's when they have thrived.
because they've never been like this before. This is the first time the football program has been competitive.
I'm just saying it in college football. It's a slippery slope to have extremely high expectations because that is the sport, even more than basketball, that is going to rip your heart out. Like a couple
No,
years ago, a
IU
couple
football
years ago,
fans are immune to that because it's happened so many times.
Kentucky had 9 wins and they went to the Citrus Bowl and they beat Penn State. The next year, everybody was saying, "Oh, Kentucky football this year. I like them. I like them. Like they're going to be really good." Terry Wilson tears his ACL. Their backup, blanking on his name, out for the season. Or Sawyer Smith out for the season. And then we were playing by the end of the year. We were playing with our number one receiver at quarterback, and it tore my heart out. So I'm saying as a friend,
That's but that's
friend.
different. That's different.
Okay, yeah,
I use returning like 17 starters.
Yeah,
There is no we're the underdog still. We're not surprising anyone anymore. There is an expectation again from our opponents. Look, They had to split the Iowa and Cincinnati game to finish 9-3. That's why I said at the beginning of the year, I thought Iowa was more attainable than the Cincinnati game at home, but here we are. So now they're going to win that one.
Real question, because I know it's on the surface, it sounds like an easy answer, but I don't know if it is. The hat had to go off. I ruined your mood. I'm so sorry, Connor. I know you didn't think we were going to have this conversation, but real question.
Yeah.
31-6.
34.
34-6. Sorry. That's really bad. But
yes.
would you have rather lost 34-6 or like 34-31? Because 34-31, really? Okay. 34-31 would have hurt.
No.
That would have hurt, man.
No.
I'm just saying.
Short term, yes. Short term, yes.
Yes, short term.
The overall outlook on the team would have been not damaged at all. And it has been roughed up. Like I've
a bit.
It's not good. I was very negative.
Yeah.
The last 3 days.
Yeah. I've never seen you this upset, even in the Archie Miller era. I've never seen you this upset. So that's how I know you're very passionate about this team. But that's good. That's good. And they still have a chance. I will say they still have a chance. They still have that same roster they had. Yes. It's just the outlook is a bit different right now. They could change it. Nobody's saying they can't.
I don't appreciate this.
They put up 70 against Idaho while I'm there.
That'd be cool. See, we planned for the Archie stuff. This was not planned. I was not mentally prepared for this.
This was the last thing that you were expecting, correct?
Yeah.
This is the last result. Yeah. No. This is the last result to that game that you could have expected going in. You did not think we could get.
Oh, no. I knew it was possible.
Oh, okay. You know it was possible?
I didn't think it would happen. Old IU teams do this. I did not think this team would, but they did.
All right, let's see if it changes. That's enough football talk. I'm sorry because I need you to be emotionally prepared. And now you're just going to be confrontational the entire intro. That's fine. That's fine. So before we get into the intro, before we get into the second part, I haven't even prefaced that with Mike Schumann. Awesome interview. He's one of the best in the business. We recorded it a couple of days ago, so Connor was a little bit happier. It was before the Iowa game. So everybody was, on top of the world in the Indiana, the Hoosier sphere. How do you like that? How do you like that?
No.
But before we get into the episode, let's talk a little bit about adrenaline shock. I have been living off adrenaline shock for, months now. And that sounds bad, but seriously, everybody else has their coffee. Everybody else has their way of getting caffeine. And I just think adrenaline shock is the best way to do it. It's smart energy. It's not going to hurt you. It's not like I drank the other competitors and it's your competitors and they have killed me. So I turned around from Hoosier Spirit, whatever. They have killed me. They've killed, my stomach, whatever. And adrenaline shock has always been there for me. Always a great experience. 300 milligrams of caffeine. Go get it. Go get it. Watermelon's good, Connor. Watermelon's good.
Really?
Watermelon.
Is that the new flavor of the week?
That's the flavor of the week. Watermelon.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So before we started recording, we were going to record this morning or sometime earlier today. And then we decided on recording a late night podcast because a certain Shaedon Sharpe, number one in the ESPN top 100, number one in On3 Sports top 100. I think he's number 4 in 247. He decides to commit to the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, this is no secret. If you've listened to our interviews with Sean Smith, we've basically been, waiting for this commitment to happen. There has been some smoke about how he said, everybody's saying I'm a Kentucky Wildcat. That's not true. Yeah. It was. He was just trying to build up the recruitment a little bit more. And that did not, I was going to be excited for this commitment either way. So before we get into the player Shaedon Sharpe is, and we know he's a great player because our very own Bryson Moore called him, a top 5 prospect when he was ranked, in the 40s. Before we get into that, I do want to jump into the logistics of this commitment. So the last number 1 recruit Cal has had, based on the service you pay attention to, was 2015 Scalabissier. And for John Calipari, it's amazing. It's an amazing stat because it's 6 years since his last number one recruit. And if you're looking at a different site, you have to go all the way back to 2013 with Nerlens Noel. So it could be anywhere from 6 to 8 years since his last number one commitment. And that says a lot about the staff around him. That says a lot about the way the program has been recruiting. If they got, I'm not saying they did, but if they got lazy, maybe complacent, I don't know. But now they add in Shaedon Sharpe. This is a guy that they have been on for a long time. This is a guy they've been on since he was in the 40s. And they've kind of just picked out his talent, from the weeds, and they've kind of watched him grow. They've stuck with him. They took him on 2 visits, which is wild in its own right. And they got him. They got the number one guy in America. Now, Connor, give your take that you were telling me. I know you were being confrontational, but give a take. You can say it however you want, but tell me what this means to you.
So you kind of just laid the groundwork for me. I don't know if you did that on purpose or not.
Of course, I know. Yes, I know where I'm going with this.
Look, you said it. Cal hasn't gotten number one player in a long time, and I do think that is a direct result of losing top assistants. I mean, and I think all Kentucky fans would agree that in the past 3 to 4 years they had some big misses, and now that they've got it, it's not a coincidence that you get Antigua, you get Shane Coleman back, and then immediately it's like boom,
right?
Going to have the best class potentially ever.
Yeah.
So that's not a coincidence. I don't know if there's any bag dropping going on. No, I mean, it's all legal. It's all legal now. It's all legal.
It for sure is all legal. Yes.
No, I think it's good for them. And I just looked up Case and Wallace. I know we talked about him earlier.
We'll get to the future of the class. It's not. I promise you, it's not done. But we'll get to the future. I just want to talk about this.
Yeah.
This player right now.
He's good.
So, okay.
He's
okay.
Good.
All right. I say something nice about Kentucky. I like it.
Yeah,
but
he's good.
I think there's a lot of truth to that because even bringing in Jay Lucas a year ago, I mean, he was early to the party, but he brings that, that Texas vibe. But something that is interesting, and I've been listening to all the Kentucky media I can. I'm not, I'm regurgitating this, but something that was interesting is on sources say they're talking about how, the coaching staff recruits now. In the past, when it's been Tony Barbie, when it's been all those guys, and I'm giving credit to them. They said when they asked Jay Lucas about how they're kind of going to spread out or whatever, they said that every coach is going to be on every recruit and no coach can take credit for one recruit. So I think that's huge because it shows that, everybody else is zigging to the transfer portal. I'm not saying Kentucky's going to, go away from that, but they're zagging right now. Like they're going hard at the recruits. Cal came in with the mantra, they're going to recruit the best of the best. He just stepped away from that for years, and now he's back. Now it seems like he's headed back in that direction with a couple more guys that we'll get to in a second. But Shaedon Sharpe as a player, everybody says a Malik Monk comparison, whatever. That's fine. But I just want to say I see a lot more in Shaedon Sharpe than what Malik Monk was. And I'm not saying Malik Monk was a bad player at all. I think he is one of the most dynamic players Cal has ever had at Kentucky while he played with the university. But I think Shaedon Sharpe can bring so much more to the table. He was, he scored a ton at Peach Jam. He can shoot, whatever. That's Malik Monk tendencies. But he is so good at making the players around him better that it is going to be just such a thrill to watch. Add him with Sky Clark. Those are two guys that are, two of the most popular guys in high school. So with these, hanging threads left in the class that, they got to pick off, whatever, these guys are going to get it done because they're popular guys. The people in their class love them. And it's going to be amazing for it. You see Sky is already, going crazy about it. Sky's already really happy. And those are just two of them. And those are two huge gets. Obviously, Sky's taking a dip because he had that ACL injury. People haven't seen him play in forever, but Sky is a dynamic player. And I like that word now, so I'm going to keep using it. But for the future of this class, I'm going to take you through what I know, what I've heard. Obviously, I'm secondary information until I get that, that connection within the program. I'm going to give you stuff that I hear from my research, from my studying of all the people that we've had on, all the people I listen to, blah, blah, blah. I think that the backcourt is getting one more piece. Nick Smith obviously comes out today and he says, or Tuesday, I don't know when this is coming out, but he says that he is, kind of crossing Kentucky off the list. He canceled his visit. I think Memphis is still involved. I think they're going to be the team. But yeah, it's sad to say I loved Nick Smith.
Memphis is in on Nick Smith?
Yes, I think Memphis is going to be the team for Nick Smith. Dude, those are the two powerhouses in recruiting right now.
So Nick Smith, Chris Livingston, and Emoni
We'll
Bates?
get to Chris Livingston because that'll be interesting.
You're too late on him.
That'll be interesting. We'll get to him in a second. But right now we're in the backcourt. I think the next guy they add is Cason Wallace. And I think that it has been, if you follow 24/7, you follow all of that, the trend has been towards Kentucky. There was a while there when it was Tennessee, whatever, Texas, whatever, the Chris Beard and everything. But I mean, Jay Lucas is on that staff and he has done a great job of getting in touch with him, getting that connection going. What's that?
Chris Livingston has 3.
Oh no! Yeah, no! Don't spoil it! Don't spoil it! Don't spoil it!
I didn't know that.
Do not spoil it! Oh, you just spoiled the entire segment. Thank you. I was gonna go. Let me go. So Nick Smith crosses off Kentucky. Obviously, it looks like Cason Wallace and Kentucky have had a mutual agreement. It seems. So I'd bank on Cason Wallace going there. Now the new name is Chris Livingston. Kentucky has been semi-involved with him for a while. Memphis was the team to beat. And as Connor just spoiled, out in the blue, 3 Kentucky picks, high picks. If you know 24/7 lingo, high picks, that is with utmost certainty. 3 picks for Chris Livingston. One being Travis Branham, one being Chris Fisher, and the other being a Memphis insider. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know too much about Chris Livingston. I just know that's the name to watch right now. I know he's been trending towards Kentucky as well. Obviously, he's a top 5 prospect. I haven't looked too far into his game. I don't know enough about him. I know Cal would probably want to play him at the 3-4 spot. But, with those wings, they always want to run guard. And Connor looks miserable.
Are they getting Lively still?
That's the next piece. I think this entire front court revolves around Derek Lively and whether he comes or not. Because people say Cal wants Adem Bona and Derek Lively. One or the other. I don't think you force that fit. I don't think you force the 2 bigs anymore. I like the 4 out, 1 in. I've always liked that. And I think it works best for Kentucky. I do think Derek Lively ends up at Kentucky. I do think that. So here's the class. Here's the class that I'm proposing.
Scholarships for this.
Here's the class that it looks like it absolutely could be this. I don't know if it will because obviously I'm not tapped in, but here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Sky Clark, obviously. Shaedon Sharpe, obviously. Those 2 are committed. Cason Wallace fills out that backcourt. Backcourt's done. Whoever comes back, maybe Severe Wheeler comes back. Who knows? Our backcourt from this year is probably gone.
Comes back. I think he comes back.
There's a lot of NBA buzz with Ty Washington.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of NBA buzz.
Even though he'll only get limited playing time?
Apparently, Cal came out and said in his press conference that Ty Washington is a lot better than he thought he was.
So he's starting.
Yeah.
He's going to start over
He's
Severe.
going to start. Yeah,
Or they
we'll
could
start
both
over
start.
Severe. I mean, yeah, I mean, they have so many options with this group. Obviously, we're looking in the future right now. I mean, we're going to cover the hell out of them this season. So, I mean, that's something for the future. But yeah, I mean, there's so many options at that 1-2 spot with Severe, Davion Mintz, Ty Washington, Kellen Grady ran the point guard at Davidson a lot last year. So who knows? Who knows where they go in that direction? But yeah, so this class, it's going to be Sharpe, Clark, and it looks like Case and Wallace will join that. So it will be what I was proposing, the kind of Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, Ashton Higgins, the 3-guard lineup. And then the front court looks interesting because you either go Livingston. If he comes, you want to run him at the 4. But look, like Toppin could be back. Who knows what Brooks does after this year? Bryce Hopkins.
Don't make that mistake again.
What's that?
Don't turn away from Chris Livingston just because you think you've got people coming back.
No, and I'm not. I'm just saying it does interest me what we do because, I mean, there's Toppin, there's Hopkins, there's Brooks, there's Ware, there's Damian Collins. How many of those guys leave? But how many of those guys leave?
They'll transfer.
But okay. But we have to be 100% sure that Livingston is that good because we've seen this problem happen last year. We've seen it happen many of times where the freshmen just, they're not ready. And obviously, college is going in the direction of experience. And I said Kentucky's zagging while everybody else is zigging, whatever. But you still have to have that experience. And we have discussed that.
That they're doing that, by the way, because I don't like it. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if they don't have their vets mixed in with this group, I don't know how far you can really go with it.
I agree because like we've seen it
to a certain degree, at least.
I mean, I'm not even going to call out the hypocrisy with, the Penny Hardaway and, bringing in Duren and Amoni. I'm not going to say anything about that.
Duren and Amoni, though. They're number 1, number 2.
Lively and Sharpe.
Doesn't matter. Duren's significantly better than Lively, and Amoni is significantly better than Shaedon Sharpe. So,
okay.
And plus, I trust Penny more than Cal. No, I'm just joking. I can't say that.
Yeah, you can't even say it. That would be hilarious if you tried to stick with that, though. But yeah, it revolves around Lively. If you get Wallace, that's your number 1 priority from now on.
And hold on a second. Hold on. Memphis has vets, by the way.
I know, but they rely on the freshmen.
Spin me into this. I'm not saying that Kentucky can't do the same. They just got to make sure they have some.
Look, I think Cal will have. I don't know if Livingston is trying to commit soon. I don't know if he's trying to wait till the spring or whatever to commit. But I hope Cal knows who's coming back and who's not coming back, because it would be a damn shame if you brought in Livingston promising, and Cal doesn't promise playing time, I'm not saying that, but promising him the starting spot, and then Jacob Toppin is back.
If you start Jacob Toppin over Chris Livingston,
can't forget about Toppin.
That would be the dumbest thing in the world.
Who knows? Who knows how good Toppin will be this year? Who knows? I honestly have no idea, because he has potential. He's raw as hell, but he has potential out the root. He can jump out the gym. He's a great defender. His shot seems to have, improved over the season. So who knows? And I mean, what about Brooks? What if Brooks is he's not NBA ready? What do you do there?
I've been hearing about, okay, if Keon's not NBA ready, that means he hasn't improved, and that means he's the same player he was when he got there. And that would mean that he shouldn't play. So
you're saying Trace Jackson Davis hasn't improved? Just because you improve into a better college player doesn't mean you're NBA ready. Well, you've seen that firsthand. I'm just saying.
What are you throwing Trace in here for? He doubled his points per game almost.
Yeah, but he stayed with the team. I'm not saying Keon won't get better, but there's a chance that he doesn't improve in the aspects
Keon's
that makes
been
him
there
a better NBA prospect. 2 years.
So if he hasn't improved his game at all, in year
Yeah, it'd be a
3,
problem. That'd be a problem.
you're still saying he should start over Chris
Look,
Livingston?
I don't know. There's still a knife in my back from last year. There is still a knife in my.
Oh God,
and I trust Cal. I trust Cal. I do. So
I wouldn't trust him. I would trust his assistants. And now that Chin Coleman's on board, that's who I would trust.
You would trust Chin in Orlando.
They're the X factor. It's not Cal.
I think they're the X factor, but Cal is still the most important part of that staff. Then don't get it twisted.
How?
He's in on all of these recruitments. He is.
But he didn't get the recruits when they left.
Yes. Wait.
And
he wasn't involved. I just told you it was Barbie and it was Joel Justice alone, and they were calling these kids on by themselves.
Why would he do that?
He got complacent, man. That's what I just said. Yes,
he
got complacent.
I just wanted to make sure that was emphasized.
Yeah, I'll be the first to criticize. I'll be the second to criticize Cal. I will.
Yeah,
I promise.
I mean, look, if they have success this year, you could really, really argue the fact
you're gonna spin zone this so bad.
That
this is gonna get some replies.
I'm just saying. You could make that argument. Not saying it's true. Just throwing it out there.
I'm sure you will make that argument too. I'm sure that'll be.
I certainly could, and evidence would support it. But I'm not making it yet. But I could.
Look, Cal still put the staff together.
Money put the staff together.
Cal put the staff together.
Money did, yes.
The name on the chest.
The Kentucky Boosters.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I mean,
poor Illinois, man.
That's an
poor
argument.
Illinois.
Yeah, poor Illinois. Yeah. I mean, I was the biggest Illinois supporter for the entire season last year, and then I was forced into a heel turn.
Yeah,
but quick. I was forced into a heel turn.
You're a terrible person.
Well, my blood bleeds blue. My blood bleeds blue. Wow. But I've liked Illinois. I've wanted to support them. I thought they needed some backup because my co-hosts were, a little bit.
We're correct.
Yeah,
we were correct.
By the end of the year. Yeah, a little bit correct. Yes, for sure. But look, Connor, I'm just saying this almost means more visually for Cal's legacy than maybe even to the team, because I know for sure that Cal can put together a great team next year with the transfer portal, whatever. But having 1, 2, Case and Wallace will probably end up, 6 or 7. Bring in Livingston, he might be even 4 in some databases. That's a haul.
Does it help or hurt him if he doesn't win?
I don't know. Like, win. What do you mean by win?
If you have 4 of the top 10, 5 if you count Lively, of the top 10 players and don't win a national championship, that is an epic failure. There's no way around that.
Look, yeah, okay, yeah, I think they should be the
if they have 4
favorites. I think they should.
If they have 4 of them winning a title, going to the Final Four,
they should win the title.
Bare minimum.
They should be in the Final Four. Correct.
So is it a disappointment? Does it hurt? Does it help?
It would be.
Hurt him?
It would. I'm not saying it would hurt him. I'm saying it would be a disappointing end if they didn't make the Final
blemish
Four.
On his record if he doesn't win with that team.
Last year was a blemish on his record. He has blemishes. I'm not saying he doesn't.
It might be his worst one, because there's going to be so much hype around this team.
Yeah,
if they get all these guys, and
there will be experience as well. Like, because Cal has been burned in the past. He's going to bring in some transfers that can shoot it. Maybe CJ Frederick's still on that team. Just people like that just kind of round out the roster. So yeah, that team should win the title. Yeah. High expectations. What'd you say? What was that quote you sent me earlier?
High expectations lead to disappointment.
I think that's a good way to end it and go into Mike Woodson talk with Mike Schumann.
With the high expectations for Indiana basketball.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition. But seriously, thank you guys for listening. Connor, thank you for joining me. We're gonna get it rolling here in a second. When it comes into fruition, how close we are to college basketball, we can start making predictions. We can start doing all this stuff. Just having cool people on to, get the season going, preview a team, preview the nation, whatever. We're going to get it rolling here in a second. So thank you, Connor, for joining me. And since I won't say it at the end, love you guys. And now we'd like to welcome on from the Daily Hoosier, the voice, everything you need for the Indiana Hoosiers. We got Mike Schumann. How you doing today?
Doing great. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing all right. We're getting started early today before classes begin, and that's what we got to do. We got to talk about your Indiana Hoosiers, Connor's Indiana Hoosiers. We got to do it. But so before we get started, we have to kind of talk about the elephant in the room. And I don't know if you know this, I'm a Kentucky fan.
All right. Well, it's been a nice conversation. I'll talk to you guys later.
So the normal response we usually get.
Yeah, it usually goes like that. But I'm a Kentucky fan. I go to Indiana University. We started this as kind of just kind of a way for us to get our outlet out on college basketball. And since I've started this, I've gotten really accustomed to, learning about Indiana, knowing more about the Hoosiers in general, because I kind of have to cover them. But what you do over at the Daily Hoosier is something really special. It keeps everybody updated. It's really amazing. So talk to me a little bit about how you got started with that.
Yeah. So unlike you, I'm a IU guy and IU grad. I guess you'll eventually be an IU grad and maybe you'll see the light one
Hopefully.
day. But I went to the Kelly School of Business and majored in accounting and was in that practice for 20 years, believe it or not, and just eventually realized my passion was not there. Started to dabble on the media side, which is always something I suspected that was a better fit for me personally, even going back to my childhood. It's something that I thought I wanted to do and just for various reasons didn't do. And the more I did it, I realized that was actually exactly kind of in my wheelhouse of what I was passionate about, which I think is really important. You got to do something that you wake up every morning feeling, 100% energized about doing, which I am and I do. So about 4 years ago, I started dabbling and just, could never put it down. And it's turned into something that I never really thought it could be. So it's been a fun experience.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. That's great. And something that you have been covering really well. A lot of people in IU media have been covering really, really well is what has happened recently. It's the Bahamas trip. So I think that's what I want to jump into first. We had Tyler Talkman on for our last interview, and he's young, but he's really good at what he's doing. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's friends with us and whatever, but he was there and he gave a really good recap on it. But I do want your opinion. I want your opinion. Who were the standouts there? Who caught your eye at this Bahamas trip?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the top standout, and I wrote this last week, it had to be for me Tamar Bates. That was the guy that really left a lasting impression on me. And there's probably some bias built into that because you go into these sort of things, focused on the guys you haven't seen before, wanting to see what they're all about. But I mean, for so many reasons, he stood out to me, not just for his basketball skills on the court, but just his demeanor, the respect that he had of his teammates. He has, in every way, he has the look of an upperclassman. And on the court, there's really not a lot of holes in the guy's game. I mean, can he improve everything? Sure, absolutely. But there's not like one glaring thing that you think, he's not going to be able to be on the court because of this. He doesn't have anything like that. He's a very skilled guard that can handle the ball, that can score at all three levels and can defend at a high level. And he has a what I would say, an alpha attribute to him that this program has been lacking for years. Now, I don't know that a freshman can really come in and be the alpha leader of a team.
Fair.
It's probably not fair to expect of him, but he has that in him, and you can already see it. We got to go to a practice, and it was very clear at that practice that his teammates like and respect him.
So you said that thing about the freshman thing. Again, I am a Kentucky fan. I promise you a freshman can be the alpha of a team.
Okay.
See what it happens. No, but something I was really interested in and interesting about hearing is so the kind of surprise of the offseason to me was Trace Jackson Davis coming back. He comes in last year, he averages 20 and 10. And you don't think there's much else he can improve from there. He showed he was the best player on that team. He got, all Big Ten honors. So what you saw from him in the Bahamas, does it look like he has been putting in the work this offseason? And does he look like a improved player?
I'd say yes, but not for the reasons why we thought he might look a lot different. I mean, I didn't see a guy that was real comfortable going to his right hand, and I didn't see a guy that was out there, jacking up 3-pointers.
Yeah,
those were the two things that, he said himself back in the spring when he came back that he acknowledged that he needed to improve. And I think Coach Woodson told him that he needed to improve. He showed a willingness down there to go right, but it wasn't to the point where you thought, he's a weapon and a threat going either hand. I think teams are still going to try to force him to go right and take their chances. And I don't think teams are going to respect him from the perimeter until he shows otherwise. I think, I went back and I have both games on film and I watched them both. And I think he only took one shot out of the paint the entire trip. So I think Trace Jackson Davis is your 5 still. I don't think he's going to, if they're playing 4-out basketball, I don't think he's going to be out there on the perimeter much at all. But the thing that did really stand out is from an endurance perspective. I mean, maybe this was influenced by BC Mega not being really, in shape or focused as IU was, because I thought that was a real standout of the trip too, is that IU, was in much better shape and was much more determined to win these games than BC Mega was. But Trace was kind of the ringleader of that. I mean, he was sprinting the floor the entire time, never got tired. Just he wore BC Mega out because they couldn't keep up with him. He was more energetic on the defensive end, I thought, just moving his feet and getting in passing lanes and things like that you don't necessarily think about with him. So I think overall he's improved, but there's still going to be those question marks. He's got a few months here to keep improving on the big things that we expect him to improve on. But I think if he's honest, those are the reasons why he didn't go pro, is because those left-handed shots aren't always going to get to the rim in the NBA. I think, we all know the NBA is more perimeter oriented at this point. So there's clear things that don't translate well. I mean, could he be a backup center next year in the NBA? I think so, but I think his hope is that he can take strides and work his way up into the first round. And I haven't seen that yet, but you never count a guy out.
Sure. It's interesting. You said that you got to watch a practice. Is that the first time you've ever been able to watch an IU basketball practice, or did you get to watch some in the previous Archie Miller era?
Yeah, that's the first time. And I think that's kind of just an overall change in philosophy of this new staff, is just to be a little bit more inclusive. And, Archie's staff was very closed in and very tight, and, you could have a successful program and be that way. But I think Coach Woodson has so far shown a willingness to just be more open and more relaxed. And, it was funny, after the second game on Sunday, they were saying, like, we got to rush out. We can only take a few questions because Coach Woodson has to get out to the airport because he's got a flight. And I ended up on the same flight as him. He flew commercial out to the West Coast, but we both flew first stop in Atlanta. And so I talked to him for a couple of minutes, and I just thanked him for the opportunity to go to practice. Because, the reality is that if you see that kind of stuff, even though it was completely off the record, we weren't allowed to report on what we saw. The reality is, if you see it, you can have a better appreciation for what's going on. And that allows you to be more accurate in what you're reporting and what you're talking about and what you're saying. So I think it's good. I think he has more trust maybe in the people there than maybe the prior staff did.
It's interesting. It's a two-way street too, because I mean, you want things to be reported correctly, and a way to do that is being more open. And I know he did that media call back. I think it was in the spring, and I think it might have been Greg Doyle. He was like, "Why are you talking to us? Like, what's the news here?" So I thought that was interesting. But kind of moving on to the starting lineup down in the Bahamas. You talk about Trace. It's not concerning, but he's doesn't have that jump shot yet. He can't go to his right, but he and Race were still in the starting lineup together. Do you think that is still possible with this 4-on-1 philosophy? Is like Race stepping out to shoot threes more, or is it still kind of those two down low and then the three guards on the outside?
I mean, here's what I said ad nauseum as I did my Bahamas Rewind series. For people that stuck through the whole series and read all of them, they probably got wore out on this point. But I think based on what I saw from Trace not really stepping out, and based on what I've seen and what we know of Xavier Johnson and Rob Finney not having a proven track record of being three-point shooters, I think they are going to absolutely have to have the other three guys on the court, the 2, the 3, and the 4 be perimeter threats. Otherwise, you're going to look a lot like the Archie Miller team of a couple of years ago, where you had Brunk, Trace, and Justin Smith out on the court, and teams just pack it in and don't respect you. So I think that puts a real premium on shooters. So I think whoever can show that they consistently knock down shots, whether that's Race or not, I think they're going to get the lion's share of the minutes. I truly believe that's why you saw Parker Stewart out there. I was told that, and it ended up being reported by IU that he made 7 of 10 threes at a couple close scrimmages right before the Bahamas trip. And I think that's how he earned those minutes more than anything else. Because when I watch Stewart play, I don't see a great defender. I don't see a guy that can really beat you off the dribble at a Big Ten level. But what he can do undeniably is get hot from three. And so when he's going to be given the chance to knock down threes, I think the same goes for Kopp. He's not a great defender either, but he can really get hot from three. So they're going to give everybody that can prove themselves as a perimeter shooter probably a greater chance to be on the floor because of the shortcomings from the perimeter from the 1 and the 5 spots.
And we talked about this with Tyler a little bit. So they started Xavier Johnson, Parker Stewart, the 1 and 2. And then I'm guessing off the bench, you had Rob and Tamar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that, someone's getting squeezed out there, and it's Lander. That it didn't surprise me to see that, but I know he only played like 2 minutes in the last game, I think. Is that something that you can see happening more and more as the season starts to get going here? Will it be him getting squeezed out? Could it be someone else? Do you think it's going to rotate? What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I'd put him in that same category as Xavier and Rob, in the sense that he hasn't proven himself as a shooter. I mean, you can have 2 point guards on the court at once, as long as at least one of them is a threat to shoot the ball. I think, there's been successful teams here in recent vintage that have had 2 point guards on the floor, but you can't have 2 point guards on the floor and neither one of them are a threat to shoot threes. And so whether he or one of the other two proves that can change your lineup possibilities. But as it stood, his greatest strength in the minutes that he had, talking about Christian, was his ability to break people down off the dribble and distribute the basketball. But he wasn't good on defense, didn't show a lot of progress from where he was last year on defense. So there was a clear letdown from, where Rob and Xavier are defensively on the ball and where Christian is on the ball. And so I think that's going to hold him back unless he shows a lot more there. And as a perimeter shooter, that's his ticket to get on the floor, I think, is to make strides on the defensive end. Because talking about themes and standouts from that trip, man, that first game, Rob and Xavier on the ball they were a nightmare for BC Mega. They couldn't even get their offense set up, and they were just menaces on the ball. And I think once Christian came in that first game, you could see it right away. The BC Mega point guard, I think his name's Scoochie Smith. I mean, he recognized that and took him to the hole a couple of times. And so Christian's going to have to make strides there. But I mean, we're talking about 2 games in August. Nothing set in stone.
Yeah,
There's still a lot of time for things to change, and he's a really talented guy. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and transitioning off that was some of the news recently, and the other recent news that we've been dealing with is the recruiting surge. And I will say this, Sam probably is going to give me a hard time for this because we did an episode about a month ago, and there were some people out there saying, I'm not sure where IU goes after Jalen Washington commits to North Carolina. It's going to be interesting. And we kind of had a doom and gloom episode. I was like really depressing. Down about it.
It was depressing. I
was like, I don't know where they go either. And someone replied to me and was like all in on Jalen Hood-Schifino. And I was like, that's fine. I don't really know who that is, really. I know we've looked at him. I'm all over the 247 sports pages. And I was like, but we're just getting involved with this guy. It turns out we weren't. Kenya Hunter had been recruiting him for a while, even under Archie. And Woodson turned it around quickly. I mean, all out effort to get Schifino. They get Banks out of nowhere. I mean, that seemed kind of out of nowhere as well. So kind of just giving your thoughts on how Woodson and his staff have done so far this summer.
Well, I think the real standout to me so far is that they are pulling in kids from out of state. That's something that Archie struggled with.
Yeah.
He got a few major wins out of state, but it tells me that this program is being perceived differently. I think it has a more national feel to it. I think, and I was wrong about this with the hiring of Woodson. I questioned it, and what I didn't see that the kids are clearly seeing is that 40 years that he spent in the NBA means something.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to recruits that I've heard that they say, he's been there, he knows what it takes to get there. Of course, that's what they all want to do. And so I think that's resonating now. Obviously, 2 years from now, if kids aren't getting to the league and the program's not really going anywhere, that's not going to have near the clout that it does now. But for what it's worth, that's going a long way for them. And I think, the state of Indiana, I'm an Indiana guy, I have Indiana bias. I grew up in Indianapolis, but I don't see a lot of talent, in state in 2023, 2024. So I think it's really important that they do establish roots out of the state. So I think that's really important so far. I think that what I would say going the other direction though is, how hung up do you want to get about a first class? I mean, this is
absolutely
something I want to do in the next week or two, because I've been thinking about it. It's been bouncing around in my brain. I bet if you went back and looked at Archie's first class and Tom Crean's first class, you're going to see some really impressive numbers, and it goes to more, the IU brand and just enthusiasm about a new staff. But they've got to actually back it up. To my earlier point, they've got to win. They've got to have kids get to the NBA to really keep the momentum going.
Yeah, as Sam would say, you have to win games, and
you got to play the games and win those games. And
I can tell them all they want that we're getting all these recruits now, and he's like, it doesn't matter, you got to win the game. So, just one last thing on recruiting. Noah Clowney just took his official. I think it was his official visit. I think he and Caleb Banks were both here at the same time. Honestly upset. Like, Sam and I are on campus. We should have went down to Buffalo's and said hello.
I think we're at Buffalo's like within the next 2 days.
Within the next 2 days. Yeah. So I don't know. It was bad planning on our part. I don't know if you get to talk to him at all or hear anything about that. Just kind of give us any updates on Clowney that you might have.
Yeah, I did talk to him on Monday and put out a Q&A that out of that conversation. I mean, I think it went really well for him. I think he was very impressed. The thing he kept saying to me over and over is just how impressed he was with the people. And by people, he meant both players and staff. And he even mentioned like academic advisors and things like that. So I think he really got a good, genuine feel for the staff. And that's something else you keep hearing about Woodson and his staff, is that they're just genuine. They're going to tell you what they really think, and they don't feel like they're getting a sales pitch. It's not like Calipari.
Nice.
There it is. Keeping the Kentucky shots going. Every guest gives one at least, I think.
Yes, I can prepare for one at least per interview. I can prepare for a shot, and that's fine. I keep them coming. That's what I'm
We
here
love it.
for. But keep going.
That was my one and only. I just want to make sure you were paying attention.
Oh yeah.
But no, that's what he said. He said he got a really good vibe from the people. I think this 2022 class is really unique in that they haven't had visits. That COVID really messed them up in terms of their normal cycle. So that was his first official visit, and he's got 3 more lined up. And he told me, and I take him at his word, that he's going to take those visits. So I think you're not going to find out where he stands until October, which is his timeline.
And I saw a report on just scrolling past Twitter the other day, how it might have been you that reported it, but he did say he released his top 4. Indiana made it. And there was somebody from close within that said they do not think Indiana would be in that spot if it wasn't for Mike Woodson. So that's just kind of showing how he's changing the program already, and just kind of how he's changed recruiting so much and out of state, and just bringing this vibe to the program. Now, got to win games. You got to win games. I'm just saying. Yeah. I've been supportive of him. I think he's done a great job. I think he's done a great job of getting everybody excited, getting everybody like where they need to be and with their headspace and everything. But I'm not going to overreact. I know people are, but I think he's done really good so far. So.
Yeah, I think even though you're an uninformed Kentucky fan, your sensibilities there are spot on. You just can't overreact. Recruiting and rankings and all that stuff only go so far. If they start out this season and lay a couple eggs in the non-conference, which is a pretty easy non-conference to be frank, but if they drop their games against Syracuse and St. John's, people you'll start to hear the fringes get restless. It's just the way it is.
If they don't adjust to a 2-3 zone, I mean, it's over for them.
Yeah. People have visions of 2013 and the Syracuse zone, and we'll be right back in the cycle.
Gosh, I mean, I will say this. I definitely, I think it was when Romeo committed, it was like, man, this is going to be really good. And it was for like the first 2 months. And then, January and February hit and they lost like 12-13. So,
yeah, you don't have to be that old to remember how good you can feel and how quickly that can change.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, kind of moving on. This is something that we've tried to talk to about like, every Indiana guy we have on. So the Big Ten is going to look a lot different this year. Last year, it was the best conference in America. From top to bottom, there was so many teams that could compete for the tournament. And honestly, IU got the short end of the stick from it because they had a lot of competition to deal with. Now, going into this year, it's going to be a little bit different. There's a lot of players left. Ayo Dosunmu, Luka Garza, they left. People transferred out. Iowa's not going to be as good. So it's not going to be the same conference as it was last year. There's some obvious guys at the top, but the middle ground is kind of for the taking. So with this kind of new look for the Big Ten, where do you think IU, without bias, can fall?
Yeah, I mean, the only things I'm comfortable saying at this point without actually seeing the product on the court in real games is that I think they're going to be a top half team just based on what I see from them and what I see from the other teams, what they've got coming back and what they've lost. So I think they'll take a step forward from what we saw from the last few years from the Archie Miller regime. And part of the reason I'm comfortable saying that is I don't feel like there's any teams in the Big Ten that you look at and think, man, you're just not going to touch that team. They're just too talented. I mean, I know Purdue's getting a lot of hype and rightfully so, but it's not like that roster is loaded with guys that, are just, assassins from the field that you just can't.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I mean,
like I don't get team. I know I'm an IU fan and I'm biased against Purdue, but like both those games
we're gonna get killed in the
replies.
We're gonna get killed in the replies.
I'm not like, look, you can call them a national title contender all you want. You lose to North Texas in the first round last year.
That's it.
It's a very typical. Yeah, I mean,
They're
I don't
18 and
see
10
how they're
and
really
lost
that
to
much
North
different.
Texas in the first round. I mean, why are they suddenly a top 5 team? I've
No.
yet to see that. I think
Yes,
they're legitimately one of the top teams in the Big Ten. I think they're going to be
absolutely.
very tough to beat. I think they got a great roster, but I don't think you look at them and think, man, how are you ever going to beat them? I think,
Yeah.
I think on any given day, there's, that top half of the league can beat each other. And,
Yeah.
but what I will say about Purdue is that Matt Painter has consistently overperformed expectations. And so it's going to be real interesting because he's never had expectations like this.
I was just say, I can't remember the last time Purdue had expectations to like win a title.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I don't view them as like any different than, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State. I think there's just that group of teams at the top that I wouldn't be surprised if any of them contended for the title. And I think Indiana, for me, coming out of the Bahamas, fans aren't going to like to hear this, but I think the one thing that I'm still concerned about is the same thing we've been concerned about for the last few years is, are they going to have good enough perimeter shooting to
that hurts. That will hurt. That will hurt to hear. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's it. I think, Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart, Tamar Bates, there's a lot of new guys in there that can certainly change things, but based on what I saw down in the Bahamas, again, very small sample size. I'm not convinced that, while they may take strides as a shooting team, I'm not convinced that they're going to be good enough to be an actual title contender.
Yeah, absolutely. It's years in the making. I'm not expecting for a lot of these guys to leave after this year as well. I think maybe Trace, if that, but there's so many guys that are going to stay around for another year that.
You think so?
I think so. I
don't know, man. They're over the scholarship limit right now. So
somebody's gonna have to leave.
I hope somebody has to leave.
Wait, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it like that. But we talked about it. Me and you talked about it, Connor, with Tamar Bates and how it did potential for a one and done. Probably not, but there's potential for it. And you're just kind of hoping he comes back for the next year. I don't know. I think there's many different directions the program can go. I just know Woodson is bringing in enough guys to have a solid turnover if need be. So I think this is years in the making for Indiana. I don't think everybody needs to freak out if it's disappointing, but not too disappointing, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so. I think if they make the NCAA tournament, compete in the upper, call it half to third of the Big Ten, I think most people will be happy with that.
It's all we need. Like there's this perception that IU fans are crazy, which we are. And we are. I'm not going to deny that, but the fact that we're this notion that we're expecting like a national championship every year or something, it's like, no, we just want to make the tournament. Like, can we consistently make the tournament? Give ourselves a chance. That's all we're really asking for.
I think I called in our couple podcasts ago, I think I called Indiana fans, and I meant it in the nicest way possible, but I think I used the word rabid, and I don't think that went over well. I don't think that went over well at all.
You might have.
They're very passionate and they care about the team. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, I mean, were you guys even born yet when they last played in the title game in 2002?
Yes, but not watching. Watching the game. I was not aware of what was going on. So no.
Yeah.
My IU fandom really picked up in the Crean era, and it wasn't the bad Crean era. It was like, they started turning it around, and the wad shot, that was kind of when it all started. Got to enjoy good basketball for like 2 years, and then it fell off.
It's fascinating to me that it's lasted as long as it is, because your generation really hasn't seen the success, and so there's a lot of desire and untapped potential from the fan base to really buy into this program that people your age would be very enthusiastic about, and people my age would love to see come back, because I graduated in 95, and so that was, like, in my opinion, that was kind of the last good run of the program on a consistency basis, that including the 93 team, which ran through the Big Ten at 17-1. And so It's been a long time since people have seen it, so I think there's a lot of desire to see it come back. But I think we're on the same page that, year one, you got to temper those expectations a little bit.
Yeah. And I have to bring this up. I can't believe we're still talking about it, but there seems to be there's still new. It's like Mark Titus. It's Mark Titus's fault. It really is. And he can't give this up. And he continues to talk about it on his podcast. And I think it's interesting because I was a big defender and a big believer in this at one point about Brad Stevens. And Mark Titus said, I think on his podcast, he had a source, like a family source on the situation. And they allegedly took a vote. And it was 3-1 to stay in Boston. And Brad Stevens was the only vote to go to IU, which first off, does his vote only count for one? Like, I feel like his vote should count for a little more than one if it's his job and his decision, but whatever, that's fine. I had heard rumors that, his wife was on the board at Butler and she didn't want him to go to IU because it would be a slap in the face to Butler and all this stuff. And with this coming out, I mean, I don't know if all that was true, but it seems like his family was influencing his decisions, and that part is true. So I don't know if you heard anything on this. I mean, were you a Brad Stevens believer at the time? I'm curious.
I mean, I was probably like everybody else. The things you started to hear kind of made you start to believe it. But the people that I was talking to, I know somebody that used to be a PR guy with the Celtics, and he was kind of talking me down, saying I wouldn't buy into this hype too much. I don't think it's real. Yeah. What I do think is real is that IU at least took his temperature on interest. I don't know if the 7 million per year numbers that were thrown out are legit, but I think we'd all agree that if Scott Dolson didn't reach out and see if he was interested, we'd all say, Scott, you breached your duty as the AD at IU. You had to. That was the first guy you had to call. I mean, he'd never admit it now because he's got his guy and everybody's moved on except you two.
Which, disclaimer, I love Mike Woodson, and I after being a little upset at the hire originally, I'm happy with it. This notion that IU was all fake. Along with Mark Titus, that's the only reason he still talks about it. He's like, he hates this idea that IU is just not even in this at all. It was all fake and made up by IU fans on their Reddit pages, and there was a lot of Reddit pages stuff, but it wasn't all fake.
No, it definitely was not all fake. The question is how seriously he really took it.
Yes.
I don't know that we'll ever know that because he's not going to talk about it, nor is Scott Dolson. My sense is that, IU definitely reached out. They definitely took his temperature, but I don't know about a vote or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's an asshole now. You're not prying him away. Yeah.
Look, the fact that he's out of coaching now, it's almost like, okay, I'm kind of like Woodson, he's re-energized the program and everything. I don't know how well he would have done initially with,
there was a clear inflection point there for him. I mean, he's out of coaching for a reason. I mean, there never could have been a better time for him to make the move to IU if that's really what he wanted to do, because he was clearly not going to continue on in Boston. He had to already know that at the time. And so the fact that he didn't do it, probably tells you a lot about where his heart was in terms of getting back into recruiting and all that. I mean, I think his family, based on what I've heard, genuinely does like Indiana, the state, living here. But there had to be something to it also, because, when he first addressed it in the media, all of us were like, well, he didn't really deny that.
I was all over that.
That wasn't a very strong denial. And then the second time he came back and made it very clear. So that to me said there was some level of consideration, but I think it may have gotten overblown.
Yeah. I mean, Woj crushed all of our IU fans, all of our dreams by just basically saying we're all idiots. Why would anyone ever consider that move? So I was like, fine. All right. We're all wrong. Whatever. I will blame Mark Titus for this, for bringing this up. Welcome to being stuck in the off season. We're stretching topics like crazy right now.
I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan on a work trip when this Brad Stevens stuff went down, and we recorded in a hotel, and I had to like not be loud because the walls were thin. But I remember getting into a screaming match about the validity of Brad Stevens' interest in IU. And I was like, this is just the most off-season topic I've ever heard in my life. Like it was ridiculous how far it went, but it was newsworthy. And if it was true, then sure, I will give Connor that. I'll give Connor there was some valid smoke.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was hilarious, and I think it's hilarious that we're still talking about it.
I will never forget this. I'll never forget this time, the fake Brad Stevens era. I'll never forget it as a fan.
There's never a more interesting time from my perspective in like running a site than going through a coaching change. It's the first time I did it. My site crashed multiple times. I mean,
the traffic on all these sites, on like your site, Pigs, right? I mean, it had to be insane.
It absolutely was. And you know, from my standpoint, you hope there's a coaching change every couple of years.
I was going to say, yeah, the constant changing and stuff like that is great for you guys.
Right. Except eventually, I think people would get tired of it and just move on.
Yeah.
So did you have like did you know when you were going to have like a serious uptick in clicks when you put an article out that had Brad Stevens in the headline? Like I'm genuinely curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I only did it a couple times because I didn't want to try to be selling something that I didn't really believe myself was true. But yeah, not just Brad Stevens, but just there were certain topics that you knew I like cringe. It's like, I know as soon as I press this button, my site's going to crash. But you got to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, gosh. Well, again, Mike, thank you for coming on. You're welcome back on whenever you want, man. It was a great interview. Come talk Indiana Hoosiers with us. I know you're always online putting out articles. You can talk with us. You can get your voice out there. We can kind of have a conversation whenever you want, man.
Well, I'm looking at you as a challenge to see if we can convert you over to the good side.
You know,
so I'm happy to come back.
I've had a lot of people trying to convert me. I just don't think it's going to happen at this point, especially And with this offseason, I've already went through my, crazy Kentucky offseason. I've already went through, we're getting Kofi Coburn. We're getting Jalen Duren. I've already went through all of that. So I've become as crazy as you guys were with the Brad Stevens. So yeah, I became pretty passionate. It's going to be hard to pull me away, man. You could try.
The problem is, though, he does like Mike Woodson. He actually likes Mike Woodson a little bit.
I mean, how could you not?
I know. I mean, he's awesome.
I can understand not liking Archie. I can understand not liking Calipari because they just got personalities that it can be a little bit, fingernails on the chalkboard. But Woodson's just like, I don't care if you like me or not. This is who I am. I didn't bring it up, but his quote from the Bahamas is the last thing he said in the final press conference. Somebody asked him about Miller Kopp's ankle injury, and he's just like, shit, he'll be all right.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's Mike Woodson. I mean, how can you not love that?
So
yes,
our buddy in sports media, Aaron Torres, he was one of the most against the hire as soon as
hateful. Very hateful,
and he's talked to us about it on multiple occasions. But he just kind of sat back and let it happen, and then he began to love the hire. So now every time he addresses him, it's Mike fucking Woodson. He will never say just his real name. And he comes on here and he got really excited about it. He was like, I get to talk to an Indiana fan base about it. This is great, but. Yeah, it's just funny. He's making an impact already.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully he'll bring back the Kentucky series, and if we can't bring you over, we'll at least bridge things that way.
Yeah, we can bridge that out. Maybe before I graduate. Well, no, probably not. I was about to say before I graduate, we could go to a Indiana Kentucky game, but
we'll We'll just have to go. It's not going to be before we graduate. There's no
fair
way.
enough.
Unless we
Fair
take
enough.
a fifth year. We taking a COVID fifth year to just stay here to watch college basketball.
To get student tickets to the college. Yeah. But again, thank you, man. Whenever you want to come
Thanks,
back
guys.
on, you're more than welcome to. Seriously.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Bye.